for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Kamor.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. Planet Green Trees is officially launched. We had a little delay start up there, but not out of the norm. Welcome, my name is Michael Kamor, and you're listening to Planet Green Trees episode 491. Today's date is December 3rd, 2020. We're calling the show Follow the Money. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We've got a set of fantastic topics to talk about. I'm going to tease them a little bit. We also have a guest that I understand is in the queue, which we're going to get to shortly. And as it goes, then I'm going to introduce our esteemed group of colleagues here that are going to help bring entertainment to the program here. Not in any particular order. We're hoping to get to a rant of some kind. We're going to discuss this new announcement from the United Nations on two fronts. One, that the Commission voted to remove marijuana from for medical use from a list of the most risky narcotics, such as heroin. While at the same time, the United Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs has overwhelmingly rejected a proposal to exempt CBD preparations with less than 0.2% THC from international control. The MORE Act, one of the legislative pieces which has been kicking around in different committees at the federal level, is going to be voted upon, I understand, tomorrow. First time ever such legislation is being voted in the federal branches of the legislature. And news that many of us were already aware of, but the conclusion of a recent report states that no evidence, quote unquote, that adult use marijuana laws influence cannabis use by teens. And then we're going to discuss three ways at least to use cannabis to manage stress. Our guest that we're going to get to in a moment here is the Depot Town Dispensary owners, Samantha and Jeff. And we have an
Care Center.
Care Center, I'm sorry.
Care
Depot
Center.
Town Care Center. Samantha and Jeff, and we have a Amanda report regarding that as well, which we will get to shortly. But before we really begin, let's begin again. Let's begin.
We'll do it live.
Let's begin.
We'll do it live.
Let me introduce all of our people here. We've got the person who is responsible for the late start and all the technical difficulties we've had thus far, and any going forward.
Dirty Dan.
Tommy, who's no, I'm kidding. Tommy's not here. We got Dan, and Justin in the
Dirty Dan.
the bunker, and then of course moving around the room here, we've got
Dirty Dan.
our dear friend and colleague and founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion, the one and only Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. We're having some pretty serious difficulties this evening.
Goddamn Dirty Dan.
God damn Dirty
Go
Dan.
fund yourself.
But excited for a good show. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and looking forward to our lineup. So
Our show should be doubly as excited because of the off week last week.
that's right.
And help make that happen as we exponentially increase the potential amount of joy that's going to take place. Let us get to Amanda Jocelyn. The Amanda report, as we said, is forthcoming. You'll hear more about that.
Absolutely.
Check out Amanda's YouTube vlog. It's called a vlog, I think. It's a
Vlog,
video
yes.
blog.
A vlog.
Yes.
And all things related to that. And, of course, the owner of the Elevation Station for your medical marijuana certifications. Please welcome Amanda Jocelyn.
Thank you, Michael. I missed you guys last week, and I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was good and happy holidays. We've got some pretty good guests coming on, and yes, check out the YouTube channels for Comorn Law, Planet Green Trees, and Elevation Station.
All right. Moving around the room here, we have, many of you know him from his elaborate experiences in the studio and on tour in the 70s. His library of music is fantastic.
Fly like an eagle.
He's a retired police officer as well. He's everything at Comorn Law, PLC.
Try to be.
A rover, amongst all things, ready to fill the spot. And really, when it comes down to it, also a MacGyver type as well. Please welcome my dear friend Steve Miller.
Thank you, sir. Whatever you got to do to make it work. That's my motto.
That's all. There's not enough
Figure it
people-
out. There's always a way to figure it out.
That's right. There's not enough of those around. All right, we're going to the Zoom people right now. We've got not in any particular order, but certainly it's hard to choose here because they both are dressed so exceptionally. We'll start with the Rasta Rabbi because he's a regular, and he's looking very smiley tonight. We're glad he's joining us. We're expecting a lot out of him tonight. He is the master of all Zooms. You may have been invited into a room with him to Zoom at some point, but be careful. Please welcome Alan Peisner.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be aboard the Planet Green Tree spaceship, which is being sponsored by Camoran Law and also Integrity Law. Camoran Law is the best law firm in the state for anything marijuana related, whether it's marijuana licensing or marijuana business questions or defense for medical marijuana cases or
just smoking
general
it.
criminal offense. Well, I don't know about that, but in any event, Camoran Law is the place to contact at 1-800-656-3557, CamoranLaw.com.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we're expecting a lot out of you tonight. Don't let us down. We've got, of course, a lawyer in her own right. Probably could have her own YouTube channel and probably will sometime soon.
You should.
And, of course, dressed
Or at least a TikTok.
to the T's in her
For real.
Camoran
I'm
Law
serious about that, actually.
garb. Please welcome
It's
attorney
the new thing.
Allie McCormick.
Thanks. It's great to be back. It's been a couple weeks since I've been here, but I don't know about the TikTok, Amanda.
You should really do
I don't
it.
know if I have
Lawyer
enough
TikTok.
enough content to live up to the TikTok. I don't know where to use, but
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I have enough to add.
You know,
So
the standards.
I'll put PGT.
The standards are really low, by the way, and
We should,
TikTok
do,
is.
we should do a Camoran Law TikTok.
That's what we were. Although once you turn on your
Yeah.
TikTok, it takes all your data immediately. It's like you can't stop it.
Yeah, it's just like Facebook.
But still, nonetheless, it's a lot of fun. And of course, Allie, I appreciate you being here tonight. Allie's been away. Of course, she was traveling in her own spaceship. She's
Well,
safely.
I quarantined for Thanksgiving to see my family. I hadn't seen them in
Right, that's true.
5 months.
Right,
so.
but the show PGT, you've been
Yes, I
Quarantined from
She
that.
was quarantined from that, too.
right. But we're
Otherwise,
glad.
sidetracked.
Good news, Allie. Next time you only have to quarantine for 10 days.
That was
Yes, I did hear that they
Oh, that's
did
good.
reduce
That's
the amount
nice.
of time of quarantine. So,
That's
so I
that's
guess I
awesome.
should maybe start now, or I guess sometime soon for Christmas.
So yeah, there's
Yeah.
how many days in between?
They're going to have us all in before too long, Jim.
Oh
Whether
boy.
you're sick or not.
We got 22 days until Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
that should
So-
count for at least
Sneaking
two
up on us.
full quarantines for those that want to
Yeah.
make sure.
2Q. All
Yep.
right.
We
Yep.
And
And who doesn't love a good quarantine?
Yeah. Right. There's so many things you can do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, it gets so boring.
I got plenty to do in my house.
I feel like I was like about ready to start like peeling, I don't know, paint off my walls, like just to find somewhere to like something to do.
see, people
Like,
people have misunderstood this phenomenon. People think we're divided over right and left, or Republican or Democrat. We're really divided over who enjoys a lockdown and who doesn't. Like some people are like, I'm fine, leave me at home. I don't have to see
get some
anybody. I
shit
don't have to
done.
talk to anybody. Other people are like, they're like,
Yeah.
that's really the division of our.
it was like at the beginning, I felt like it was absolute torture, but then after I feel like the 3 to 5 weeks after it first went in, it was like, okay, I guess I just accepted it and just submitted.
It's hard to accept it, isn't it? It's hard to believe that it's going to be like that, all the time.
It's
I-
like almost like the stages of grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I felt like that's how it was. Like the stage, like went through the same stages
Storm,
of grieving.
Norm, and
Yeah, but it's still not
Yeah,
over
it's
yet.
like acceptance.
Yeah, but we're at acceptance, I think.
I wanted to I watched a little. The governor spoke on this a couple of days ago, and this isn't pro or con, but I noticed a couple things. One, she said we've beat it before and we can beat it again. That's not a
Yeah.
thing. Like you either beat it and
We
you beat
didn't.
it. You can't beat it twice. The second one was maybe it was the guy from the CDC. Like that January, February, March are going to be the worst in the history of America's public health.
In the history of
Wow.
histories.
And Michigan is running at a $1 billion budget deficit and they can't
Well,
figure out. Now, like the new thing is the PPP.
Gretchen wants it to be 1.1,
The
but
PPP loans that we were getting from the federal government, they're trying to do it through the states now, and they can't figure it out, and they already owe money. It did not sound very optimistic, but here
it's
we go.
not good.
And with all that optimism,
good.
we're going to turn now to the man who's responsible for everything, and
But
including.
I wanted to side note really quickly on the beer that you said was selling out the other day. What was it called again?
The Whitmer beer is selling out. That's what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
Big Gretsch.
All right. the
Big Gretsch.
Gretsch.
Big Gretsch beer.
Big Sorry, I thought that was funny, but
Is
sorry,
it?
continue,
All
Michael.
right.
You
No, I
want
was
to
gonna-
try?
Making money off that.
We have our guest in the queue here. We don't want to keep him waiting. I see that
Samantha's coming on.
Samantha's coming out in a minute. But let's turn to with the man who's responsible for all things, including our happiness tonight. Jamie, please, despite the modest pessimism in the news these days, give us reasons to be happy.
Just completed their first year of adult sales in Michigan, and Mexico legalized.
All right. Who just completed? You mean the?
That was a short burst.
The depot. The depot.
The first places to go. There's 2 in Ann Arbor. Arbor's Wellness was one, and 2 others around the state. So there's 4 places on the very first day that there could be a sale. I was at Arbor's Wellness with John Sinclair and Ryan Basor and Rick Thompson to participate in the very first sales. And it's now been a full year, and a lot more places have come on board, and it's gone really well. It's just getting started.
What have you been up to? How's your competing radio show? Not complimentary.
Or complimentary.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. It is. It's doing well. We had Gus Rosania, professor from University of Michigan College of Pharmacy, and had a really interesting conversation, including his pitch for why the cannabis community should challenge Elon Musk in the space race and beat him to Mars.
Okay, that sounds like a good one. I think it's going to be aired on the History Channel next. I understand. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
it was that quality. It's been picked up and sent out all over the place. But we also talked about the same list that you brought up tonight, and it's all really cool stuff. There is some stuff to point to. Some of it's kind of symbolic, but at the same point, it is recognition of moving forward. The UN and with the MORE Act coming out.
I want to get your thoughts on that. I don't want to keep our guests waiting. I also noticed, just as a matter of potential topics, there's this Michigan Joint Task Force on Jail and Pretrial Incarceration. There was a report that was produced, and there's some ongoing committees that are meeting regularly. And I saw our friend Jeff Irwin, who's one of the participants, is very excited because his bill, which addresses a number of different things, but some of the major issues they've been speaking about include, amongst other things, the pretrial release, height eligibility, and the excessive lengths of probation, which oftentimes keep people tied into the system, and also the issuance of warrants when people don't appear, things to that effect, and giving more discretion to the courts in that regard. So that's good news, and we'll have to get Jeff Irwin on. But I know that's been a topic of interest for both, for me and the show here, and also Jamie's show. But all right. So with that being said, let's turn to our guests, who we're very happy to have with us tonight. We've got Samantha and Jeff from the Depot Town Care Center, and if I understand things, it's been licensed for both medical and recreational. Amanda was there recently, and we've got a video we're going to show a little bit about
do we want to go to the Amanda report real quick? And
Yeah.
Okay, we can do the Amanda report real quick and then come back so people can see and understand, visualize the place that we will be speaking about of Samantha and Jeff's. But are we able to pull that off, Dan?
You guys like that sound?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Camoran Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. We are in Depot Town in beautiful Ypsilanti, and we're here at the Depot Town Care Center, and we're about to go inside and see what they have to offer. Are you ready to be awe-inspired? Let's go. foremost, but tell us a little bit about the Depot Town Care Center.
So we've been here since 2011. We received our medical license in 2018, and we just recently received our recreational license. So we have lots of restaurants. We have Aubrey's, Sidetrack, Maze, the Wax Bar, and we're also right near Riverside Park and Frog Island Park.
So during this debacle and this pandemic, Sam, what kinds of things does Depot Town Care Center do to keep patients safe?
So we have extensive cleaning procedures in between each patient and customer. We have a thermometer that takes your temperature before you even walk in the door. Everyone's required to wear a mask for entry, and our bud tenders wear gloves, masks, and sanitize to keep everyone safe. If you don't feel comfortable coming in to make your purchase, you can always make a purchase online or over the phone, and we do curbside pickup.
So I see you've got a couple of products out here to show us. Can you explain some of these things?
Yes, first we have the Mary's Medicinals Topical. It's a 1-to-1. It has 300 milligrams of CBD, 300 milligrams of THC. This one is really awesome because it actually goes 10 derma layers deep. So it actually goes straight to the joint, straight into the muscle. So it's fast acting and it's very, very efficient. Next, here's the Garlic Cookies Flower, which is an indica dominant. This one is testing at roughly 28% THC. This is definitely a top seller. Next, we also have the Wana Gummies, which is a really hot seller. They're available in hybrid, sativa, and 1-to-1. They come in 10 milligram pieces. Very
Tasty?
Yes.
Good. So tell us again how we can find more information about the Depot Town Care Center.
So you can find us on our website at depottowncarecenter.com, along with our menu on Beat Maps, and you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Depot Town Care Center.
Well, thank you so much, Sam, for having us here, and you have a beautiful facility.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Camoran Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. So, thank you guys,
That was awesome.
Sam and Jeff.
What a gorgeous looking place. Very exciting. I hope people get a chance to get up there. First of all, welcome you guys to Samantha and Jeff for joining us tonight. It's always interesting to see the minds and operators behind these facilities and whatnot. And I'm glad that we were able to get the video so we could put it all together and people could see what it is. You know, a lot of people still have not been experiencing retail centers yet, and they still may be relying on a caregiver or on some other market. But we have some folks here live and with us to
We're live.
talk and
Live.
discuss this
Doing it
reality
live.
that you can go to a store and actually buy marijuana.
What?
Both for with your medical card or as an adult if you're over the age of 21.
Driver's license.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for joining us. And did you ever think you'd be on a radio show talking about your legal marijuana license business or podcast, whatever this is?
They need to unmute them.
No.
Jeff-
Things have moved very fast, haven't they? It's kind of crazy that, especially since you've been open since 2011. Obviously, you've been one of the, there since 2011. You've seen all sides of the environment in terms of its, the risk of criminalizing and forfeiture and all the stuff that went along with it, and the challenges of converting that principle to a licensed facility through the MMFLA, which is very, very challenging. And they were seemingly, not. Who would have thought that anyone that was open before they licensed facilities would get a license, right? That's kind of a miracle that. And then, of course, you've gotten your recreational license, which is fantastic. So, first of all, have you been enjoying? Has it been worth the struggle? How about that one? Is that a good question? Has it been worth the struggle to get here for operating all these years?
Yeah, definitely.
It has been a lifelong dream.
Very good, very good. All right, so what generally speaking, it's obviously you've gone through a lot of the newness of this created marketplace, and there's obviously challenges because you've got a highly regulated market, much different than the caregiver market, et cetera. How are things going? Do you find, I mean, now that you have the recreational license, do you find that the supply and demand issue that has been there, is it kind of, are we getting past that? Are you able to, do you think people are, seeking retail places more now because of that, or less because of that, the prices, for example, or is the caregiver market still drawing patients away?
Give us the scoop. What are your challenges?
At times, I think prices for retail customers are shocking at times because the prices are much higher, including the 16% sales tax and things like that. The supply chain is definitely getting bigger, but prices are still so high that, I know our patients and our customers would like to see those go down, hopefully at some point.
Sure, absolutely. What do you see some of the challenges going forward in that regard? Do you think that, what would be your complaint to the, Andrew Brisboe, if he was listening and you're able to say, listen, these are some of the inherent problems that we're finding in this. You guys are not vertically integrated. You're exclusively a retail center, so you're always purchasing wholesale and then putting on the shelves to sell.
Is that correct?
Yes.
But what do you see the challenges? Like, what do you think the inherent problems are in that? Do you think we have too many hands on the widget, so to speak, before it gets to the shelf? Do you think there's some things that could be trimmed off the process? I mean, the whole premise of the MMFLA was kind of a, design that was antagonistic to how caregivers were operating and wanted to, almost too thoroughly have all these checks and balances that may be unnecessary. Do you see one or two or any that have been an impediment or an unnecessary cost that's being, put off onto the customer?
I would just say the wholesale cost for us is so high, especially eliminating the caregiver intake into the metric system, where, these big companies get to come in and they have stores and grows, and then they give themselves great prices, and then what's left, they raise the prices extremely for us smaller shops. So, and then that ends up getting pushed on the customer, which, I don't know. It's hard.
No, I hear you. And that has been, I've heard that, and we're aware of that. And what you're saying specifically is that now that they're no longer accepting caregiver product in, the only game in town, the only supply is from the licensed growers. And the licensed growers are selling first in priority either quality or quantity within their own integrated businesses, buying it cheaper, selling it at the retail places. And then the supply that would be available for the rest of the mom and pop businesses, or those that aren't, vertically integrated, are absorbing that cost that they're saving, and they're basically controlling the marketplace in terms of what the price per pound is going to be, right, at the wholesale price. And what that tells me is that there's a need still for cultivators, right? You need more flour that, that feeds the marketplace, so that they aren't the only game in town. There's other alternatives, both in volume and probably quality, I imagine, right? They lock up? What happened?
What happened?
There he is.
Hey,
I'll tell you what happened. This has to do with Justin. We have a big problem. Justin,
should we take a look?
why is this rebooting?
Okay. All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Oh, okay.
All right, did you guys hear the question? I don't know. Did the question zoom? Did you guys hear the question?
No, you froze during the
All right, okay.
question.
That was Justin.
What was the question?
Justin, get out here and
What was my
explain
question?
yourself.
Seriously, what was my question? It's a great question. I forgot. What was it?
It was about the supply and the.
Oh yeah. So, your analysis of the vertically integrated growers and retail businesses that are selling cheaper to themselves, and the supply isn't there for you, or they're controlling, those entities are controlling the supply, suggests to me that there's room in the market for more growers, or the grower licenses, to compete with the only game in town, which the vertically integrated facilities are. In other words, they're dictating whatever price they want. If you had some other competition that could sell it for less, it would force them to move. Or the elimination of the caregiver, which was that other competition, has allowed them to just dictate whatever they want. And that's problematic and certainly seems to be top heavy in terms of who gets to control this whole economy in a way, right? The growers are obviously in command at this time. But
that'll change.
Sure will.
It's just going to take some time.
So what do you guys find was the most challenging part of transitioning from into the license system?
Jeff, what do you think?
I couldn't hear that question.
I said, what did you guys find as most challenging when you transitioned into the licensed system? Like, what was the most challenging part about it? Dan's making me nervous over here with his audio technical situation.
Just dealing with the state.
Take it easy, Dan. Take it easy.
When you say dealing with the state, you mean just the approval and staying in compliance and following the unlimited and constantly changing rules and
Rules
memos.
and regulations. Yeah, that I would say is the most challenging part.
I have a question. What is your organization? I'm just curious. How many people do you need to handle all this? I mean, you got you two here. You two are right here, and obviously, you're playing different roles, and one's But there's obviously there's like, what's the whole team? You don't have to name the people, but I'm just curious. What is the how many do you need in your dugout in order to make the to get a full team together?
Handling all the licensing and everything, is that what?
Well, I'm sure you've got legal. You've got some legal people, and you've got some financial people. But in terms of the operational stuff of taking calls and buying, and how many people are out receiving it and packaging it, and how many people? I'm just curious. Or is it just you two? It could be. I don't know.
How many people are over there?
And Jeff.
Okay, so you've got two, and then you had one other person, right? Kevin was there when.
Yeah.
So how many other people do you have at Depot Town Care Center that makes that operation work?
Right now we have 3 bud tenders, and then we have Dan, Jeff, myself, and Javier.
Okay.
All right, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
How about the quality that's being grown? Since you have nothing to do with it, you can give good marks.
Who's got the good stuff?
Yeah, tell us the inside scoop. Who's got the good flower on the market?
Oh.
It depends on. I've been just slowly bringing in different products from different suppliers. Some are better than others, But like edible wise, I think best sellers are like Wana, Kiva, Cushy Punch. Those guys.
Understood. From a functional standpoint, I mean, is it more often that you find yourself calling to try to get a supply to put on the shelves, or are the growers calling you to try to sell, or which is happening more frequently, if any?
I reach out more than they reach out to me, and for the rec side, getting rec products very competitive. They can send you an inventory list, and by the end of the day, it's gone.
Interesting.
So it's competitive. So I call and I bug them every day for updates and to put me on their list to let me know as soon as they get stuff in. So
people need their weed, man. That's
right. Is there more supply available because of the testing differences? In other words, when you're buying, is there more available on the medical side? I mean, less available on the medical side than the recreational, because it's some stuff may pass rec but not medical. Is that, do you find any distinctions in that at all, or does that not really play into any of the decisions you're making?
It just depends. Like sometimes there just won't be much available because it's either stuck in testing and then they release it all. I can't find any rhyme or reason to it. It goes back and forth for me, honestly.
Sure. Did you see, we were discussing this a little bit. Obviously, we just finished the season of the harvest, so to speak. And did you find that there's any fluctuation in availability or the prices because of the outdoor? There are some licensed outdoor growers. I think I don't know if they're for the recreation also, but I would imagine at the end of the season there's a big influx of material coming into the metrics. And I'm just curious, did you sense the market change at all in terms of availability or price?
No, prices are dropping a little bit. The more I talk to suppliers, they'll start dropping their prices more and more. So it's just like a numbers game going back and forth, negotiating.
Sure, for sure.
But yeah, there's been a drop in price, but so.
Does it work like that? Like I've heard it works in terms of the old market where the more you buy, the less per pound it'll come down and things like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a
Or
little
just-
wheeling and dealing involved? Or is it just
I
like,
wheel and
here's
deal.
what you got to pay? So,
like you try to right, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with like they're always looking for an outlet and a present. I mean, even though you're wheeling and dealing on this, you're always talking about the next one, next time, right? I mean, there's a lot of that going on, and
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, so and do you find that to be independent of what is clearly a superior skill? Do you find it to be something you can utilize and be effective in the negotiation, or do you find that the other side that you're talking to is not being reasonable because they're running the table? You know what I mean? Do you get very far in your negotiations?
good
What I'm
when
asking,
they're not reasonable.
is it fair?
Some people will say this is the price. I'm not negotiating. Take it or leave it. And I'll say then I'm leaving it. Some people will say that, and then I just hold out, and I say no, and then they call a week later. They're like, well, I got some stuff for this price,
Right.
and then they'll start dropping. If I hold out, they'll start dropping. But some people are just like, nope, well, someone will buy it. So.
Sure, absolutely. And what is your? How's this second?
That is kind of exciting, though.
What's that?
I mean, it's turning more and more like it's an actual legitimate free
Regular
market.
business.
Yeah,
I
for
like
sure,
that.
for sure. I mean, you're gonna. I mean, yeah. There's a power in the growers that is unrealistic because there's no competition.
Well,
you know
it's
what I
just
mean?
because they have to go first.
Yeah, but they're the only game in town.
Right, but that will change, and when it does,
Sure. Right.
things
But
will
it's
get.
still is a there was never any contemplation with the MMFLA of what the end price would be for patients. I mean, let's just say it. They're going to force all these people to spend all this money.
But there
You know,
there shouldn't be. I mean, you let the market dictate what the patients pay, just like with everything else.
There's
And-
already a competing market, though.
right.
Caregivers.
There's the caregiver market and there's the black market, and I've always said that it's not really truly legal until the black market has no reason to push forward. And right now the black market is absolutely thriving because people
Right.
are paying
So, do
16%
you guys-
tax, and
this will go to Jeff and Sam and probably Jamie too. But do you guys are you concerned about the market changing when the cultivation does catch up to it? And like we see in Oregon that the gram, like per gram, is like $2. Where do you see this market going, and what do you see in regards to the medical program remaining intact? Jeff?
I think the caregivers are going to go away, and the medical market's probably going to disappear as well.
What do you think?
We had Andrew Brisboe on the show like in July, and at that time I think the $109 million in sales, and it was like 47 million rec, 42 million medical. Then in like October or September, one of the more recent reports, it was like 60 million rec and 40. It's getting wider apart, much more rec sales. And are you seeing the same kind of numbers or breakdown that your sales are increasing for rec and less for medical, or fewer people are showing up with cards, for example?
Yeah, well, we're just so newly licensed rec that we still have all our medical patients. And one thing, we're in Ypsilanti, so we're not in like the wealthiest area. So our customers are usually on a budget. So
Right.
they're not trying to pay an additional 10% sales tax. So
That's
I
right.
encourage them, if they don't want to do that, then they need to keep their cards, to keep that market alive. But I think that the medical market's just going to die out, especially because prices for rec product are so high that the wholesalers are more focused on the rec side than they are the medical side, because that's going to be their moneymaker in the end.
Sure. So did you have the same issue with? I mean, I didn't really delineate this. The supply and demand of the cannabis. Is it equally as difficult for medical, for getting medical cannabis, or is it then rec, or is it, or is it the same?
It's the same. I do notice that there's, I would say it's probably the same from my suppliers that I work with. I'm able to get the exact same products on each side of the market.
Okay, all right. What do you think? So I know the first lockdown, which you would have been medical, like back in March, April, whatnot. The governor had identified the cannabis market as being an essential work environment, and I don't know if that affected your medical sales at that time. But has this new phase we're going into, has it impacted it at all? I know, like for example, in Ann Arbor, where they rely a lot on the student population, that they send a lot of people home. It's down in sales. That's what I understand. Are you guys impacted the same way by these events, or is it not so much?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it slows down. The first lockdown slowed down a lot because just people were afraid to leave their houses. People were getting laid off. They just didn't have the extra money they're trying to keep their lights on, really. So far, this second kind of lockdown, it's been steady. It's been okay. But as we get towards Christmas or things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it starts to slow down again.
Tell our listeners.
But now that we have.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, tell our listeners. I know at one point in time the MRA was allowing for curbside pickup and encouraging it. There was a delivery is available for some. What are those things? How are those things used at all by your facility? You guys have that, and are those options?
Yeah, we do. We have in-store sales, but if people don't feel comfortable coming in, they're always more than welcome to do curbside pickup, which is still available for us, which we'll continue doing. More people honestly like the curbside pickup, so we'll keep doing it as long as the MRA allows us to.
Are they going to get to drive-throughs, do you think? Is that a new thing because of all this, if they have to? Are you ready for that?
That would be nice. Yeah. We'll have to find a new location, but that would be nice.
All right, what else? You guys, any other comments? I think we got to wrap it up and let you guys go. I could keep you on all day. I got all kinds of questions there. But any other final comments? Any question I should have asked you that is interesting that I missed or something? Just kidding.
Thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for letting us go through your shop there.
It really does look like a great place. I appreciate it. You guys have, and people don't really understand. I've represented some people with license. I know the effort and energy and willpower it takes to get the MMFLA to stay alive and get the recreational. So that in and of itself is a major accomplishment. I want to congratulate you, and you should be proud of those events very much. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to. We have to get you back on, and for all of our listeners, please check out the Depot Town Care Center and ask for Samantha and Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And we appreciate you too.
All right. Thanks, guys. We're going on time.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Does this new sound over that display link shit? You see this cat video? It's not nearly as funny without the sound. There you go.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Hey folks,
with Danielle, and we're at the Botanical Company in East Tawas. Tell us a little bit about your location here.
So we are in Northeast Michigan in the beautiful town of East Tawas. We opened in October of 2019 with our medical license, and then February of 2020 we got our recreational license. We have been warmly welcomed by this community, so we're so excited to be here, and obviously you can always find us on Weed Maps and Leafly with any location information.
Very nice, okay. All right, so let's hear about some of the products that you carry here at the Botanical Company.
Definitely flower is a fan favorite here, so we want to make sure that our flower selection is very strong. And then obviously we're always listening to our guests and making sure that any new products coming online, we're getting them in as soon as possible and they're available for sure.
Tell me about another thing that may make Botanical Company a little unique.
I would say it's our aggressive loyalty program. Tawas is a fantastic tourist town through the summer months, but we know once those tourists leave, we have to make sure that we're doing right by our local demographic. So we wanted to make sure that our loyalty program was aggressive for them, so they were coming back and spending their hard-earned bucks and getting the best bang for their buck.
Very nice. Okay, so tell us about how somebody would get started here. I understand you have both adult use and medical use. So what would somebody that's looking to sign up, what would they need to have?
On the medical side, you just need your valid NMJ card and a valid driver's license or state ID. And then on the recreational side, you just need a valid ID. And then really we want to make it very friendly and make it a place where either if you're new to the cannabis lifestyle or very well versed and know exactly what you want, we just want to make sure it's a friendly atmosphere to come on in and spend as much time with our budtenders as you'd like to.
So other locations, what can we expect from the Botanical Company, Danielle?
We're so excited. We have our vertically integrated facility being built as we speak in Lansing. Such a strong cannabis culture there. That will be our cultivation, processing, and provisioning. That really is our flagship location.
Very exciting.
So November 1st, we hope to have provisioning open there. So we're just over the moon about that.
Yeah.
And then also up in the wonderful town of Kalkaska, such a great cannabis vibe in that town. We love it. We're going to be opening provisioning and then also social use lounge, which is just, we're so excited to be able to come and get your products. They're right next door to each other. You can come and shop and go next door and just check out some music or hang out, and we're over the moon about it.
I can't wait.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to be making another trip up north to take a look at not only the provisioning center, but also the lounge. And I understand there's going to be some awesome Kalkaska Kush.
Oh, Kalkushka.
Kalkushka.
From our friends at Real Leaf Solutions.
Very nice.
And it is something that you can currently find at Tawas store, and we will be obviously providing that at all of our locations, and it is phenomenal. Try it if you can find some.
So keep your eyes open, folks, and we'll be reporting more with their Lansing location and their Kalkaska location. This is Amanda with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Camorran Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Camoran Law. Michael Camoran is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Camoran Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Camoran Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Camoran Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Camoran Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Camoran Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
Hi, this is retired Sergeant Steve Miller, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
Here's Michael Camoran with more Planet Green Trees.
Alrighty. Is the meme?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Apparently there's a funny meme going on right now. Jim is hysterical.
You're out.
That was hilarious.
I see the delay. Okay.
That's hilarious.
All right, good. So we're back.
And if you don't think that's funny, I can't help you. I'm sorry.
An extra dessert tea. If I
You had to know something about
Dessert
the cat
teas,
story.
everyone. We've got some
There's
dessert
a dessert
teas.
tea here for Jamie, and he's not here to drink it.
All right. So let's move on here. We've got a lot of other topics. Somebody pick a topic. I don't care.
Delish.
What are you talking about?
Well, I would just like to say that I am really very appreciative of President Trump's attempts to litigate his way out of this hole he has found himself in. I have never seen people that call themselves attorneys act in such a fashion. The testimony in front of the oversight committee yesterday in Lansing, it was insane. It was one of the most.
There hasn't been a credible witness produced until yesterday.
Well, hold on. And I saw one person. I'm not taking a position here, but I do want to comment on the lawyering, and a very important point about all this. But there was a guy who was a tech master, right? Some kind of techie guy that did not speak very highly of the election machines, where they originated from, and some of the, programs that are used, or the algorithms for that could lead themselves. They are. His testimony was they can be manipulated, right? I mean, I'm not suggesting it was the first I'd heard anything about any of that, but it seemed like they're so popular that any election you could say this about, and that unless you have a forensic evaluation of every single voting machine ever used, which is the pattern, then you're never going to be able to say otherwise. It's kind of like the idea of this. Here you go. Here's a good analogy that the substance that doesn't have any plant material in it. It could be synthetic. Could be. Not really, but it could. The chances are not likely. But it's possible. It's plausible kind of thing. Like anything is.
But the things they're saying they have no basis in reality. The testimony that was being offered by what they labeled as some sort of IT consultant with Dominion was testifying that she observed, I believe it was 5,000 ballots being run through the machines at least 8 times. And when she was prompted with, well, then why weren't the balances for the precincts off by 40,000 votes? Because that's the only way that could possibly happen. She would just continue to basically berate and yell at the committee.
I saw that. There was a couple.
Accuse them of fudging the report.
Yes,
I saw a lot of that, and I saw that the committee chair silencing the people that were questioning, to the extent that it made these morons seem empowered to be able to talk back and whatnot.
This was at our state legislature.
Oh yeah, Rudy Giuliani was there.
At our state legislature.
Yes, in
I
Lansing,
think we've said it's look at it was in the Judiciary Committee.
It was the Oversight
Okay,
Committee.
right.
It was insane. It was one of the most insane things I've seen, and it's just one after the other. I mean, I watched the case in front of the Court of Claims by Thor Hearn, and that was another one where they don't understand that it's called a preliminary injunction in the state of Michigan. That's what you have to file for, folks. And in order to do that, you have to have a brief. You have to kind of tell the judge why you want a preliminary injunction. It's kind of a big deal. And they just came in completely unprepared. And to me, it's like, and regardless of where you stand on the issue, you have to ask yourself, is the campaign intentionally trying to lose? They can't find anyone better than this, or any arguments better than these.
Listen.
Well, Michael and I have had discussion this week about how maybe our faith in the judges in the criminal justice system has really wavered and failed, and you can't help but not have confidence in it. But in regards to this political bullshit, we're talking about, we're both grateful for the fact that these courts, that's who's evaluating the stuff right now. And these judges, they haven't brought anything to these judges. And some of these judges are Trump appointees that are saying, you got nothing here. And so you got to bring evidence to the courts. That's the good thing about the courts. And the courts, in a state legislative session, there's a lot of circus-type nonsense going on these days at the federal and state level, where that shit doesn't go on in the courts. And if it is going on in the courts, that's a judge that has zero control of the courtroom. So at the end of the day, in our system and the mess of what the legislator can be, and even the executive branch, as we've seen for 4 years, can be so ridiculous. We have the courts to keep things in check, thank God.
I'll give you a good example of this. You know, remember when Obama had a Supreme Court appointee who was a Garland, whatever, right? Merrick Garland or whatever? Jim.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And he's the president. The Constitution authorizes that, and those controlling the Senate that are in charge of the confirmation of that said, nope, not this year. We're making some fucking rule up.
Yep.
And then the next go around, same kind of thing.
It wasn't a rule. They said it wasn't the right thing to do.
Well, the point is, whatever they like, so that can't; those two things can't be reconciled.
No,
You know,
absolutely.
There's like a precedent that they point to that when you're homing in on the election, you know, you should hold off at that point and let the people decide how they want to do it. That's what they were referring to.
Okay,
but that in Obama's case, that appointee was like 300 days out from the election, and then in this case, recently votes had already started being cast.
Right. And my point is that whatever the deemed, it's, you know, the end result that one of the presidents got to do it and the other one didn't is not based on law. It's based on some other principle that is, in law, you would say is unfair. Paddling for the two can't be reconciled. There's no logic to how that result ended in those similar factual situations, okay? That's an example how that shit would never go on in a court of law. Another one would be how a person could, any person for that matter, could argue fake news, meaning that is not the answer to everything. There are times when, in fact, a person may have said something in the past and they're on record about it, and now they're saying something completely different. Now, this goes for all politicians.
Happens all the time.
All politicians. That is part of what you're doing. You are making promises in public that you know you will not be able to keep.
Yeah.
And whoever you're
And then-
railing
and then
to,
denying it. It's great.
to your base is not going to get any legislation passed because, you know, extremism does not pass legislation. It's about compromise, if it's going to happen at all. And every single politician has to compromise and give in to one of their beliefs somewhere along the line just to get along. We don't have a lot of that going on in politics right now. And maybe the problem with our politics is they're so divided that nothing's getting done. They can't agree on anything. But with all that being said, none of this stuff can take place in a court of law. You can't stand before the general public and say the election is rigged. This happened, this happened, this happened, and go into a court of law and run the same garbage.
Right.
The answer to the next question to your allegations are, prove it. Show me evidence. Put it up here. There's a process to do it. Even putting that aside, show me evidence. Or what are you really asking? You're asking us to set aside the election that would disenfranchise 8 million people in Georgia, Michigan, and over the fact that you're suggesting that these improprieties took place that you can't even establish, and the total number of those improprieties are less than 1% of the total populace, of total votes that were cast. I mean, this is not, you know, like whatever that running through the gambit there is what courts are supposed to do. You know what I mean? And they're supposed to be free of the political, the decision being political. And my final point with Steve is that the system's broken. The judges contribute to it every single day, all the way along the board.
Especially in the district courts.
However, if you're going to find any kind of truth or any kind of validity in the system, not saying that every judge will do this, but if it's going to exist, it's going to exist in the judicial branch. That's all I'm saying. That's what I felt. That's what I feel like me and Steve kind of hit that in. Like, you can't expect it as the norm, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in the judicial system. Because in the political system, show me who's speaking out against this continuing. Show me who's speaking out like, don't send money to the campaign because they're not using it for legal funds. They're using it for some other method, even though send us money is premised on legal battles and fighting fraud and stuff that courts are saying doesn't exist, that there's no proof behind it.
It's over. And
it's being stated to the general public as really a ruse. And I don't know. I mean, I at times may seem to be biased towards loving lawyers.
Lawyers.
There needs to be more lawyers, or the concepts that we're beholden to in terms of responsibility and accountability and what flies. Like I have to like untrain my brain to be a politician. You know what I mean? Like I have a difficult time even talking to public, over exaggerating a particular point for a view that I have. I'll almost inevitably argue with myself as I'm discussing it. Like, this is what I think, but, there's, even though I know that I'm right or believe that I'm right, just to kind of keep it even keeled.
That's how you win, and that's how you usually arrive at the right answer. And you say, you're biased for lawyers, and I mean, here the lawyers have saved us in the form of, judges on both sides of the aisles making the right decision when it comes to these cases being put in front of them. In the way of the Board of Canvassers, Aaron Langeveld is the attorney to the Republican caucus. If anybody in the state of Michigan had a reason to not certify that vote, you would think it would be him. But he stepped up and he said, we have to follow the rule of law. And the attorneys that care about that and believe that the law is there for a reason and that we have to follow it, even if it's not going to help push our agenda forward, are the reason that Joe Biden is going to end up entering that seat on January 20th, whether Donald Trump wants him to or not.
Yeah.
I tell you, this is
time to move.
Yeah.
It's I hate to use this comparison because it's overused and it's inappropriate in most instances. But I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, and they were discussing. It's like a philosopher, and he's talking about like how he was reading a bunch about German history and World War I and World War II, and he's trying to, as a philosopher, he's trying to figure out like what could I have done, if anything, what could have been done, if anything, to stop, the rise of the Nazis, let's say, And what would be, was there what did heroism look like back then? You know what I mean? And the guy who was talking was like, look, you were against, there's a communist Russians were coming in, the right wing party, and it was all meant to, the state of the economy was terrible, and I'm not, anyways. And there's been a lot of criticism, like how could a civilized country at that level have gotten so uncivilized of some of the things that they did? And a lot of times there's been criticism amongst the lawyers because they had a legal system, they had a constitution, they had proceedings, they had due process. You know what I mean? It was a highly advanced country at the time, and then they didn't, obviously, because the rule of law meant nothing. Right at the end of the day, and total power was what was. But what we're going through here, and the credit that I give to the legal system in a way, is the end. Like it's what stops, the rise to power of some, to someone that shouldn't be in that, and that the system is bigger than the man.
It's preventing tyranny.
Yeah.
It's like the rules of golf. Like no person's bigger than the game of golf. The rules matter. You call the penalty on yourself. You don't cheat. The game is the game, and if you get good bounces, bad. I mean, that's my whole. But here we've got actual, real, identifiable. I mean, listen, in this era, and I'm talking because we're living in a state that's got not even executive orders anymore. Now they're like Department of Community Health orders or whatever they are. But in a time where the
epidemic orders is what they are.
Whatever. In time, like in crisis times, we have to make certain that the rule of law. I mean, that's all we have. Otherwise it's anarchy and tyranny, right?
And even not in crisis times, it's all.
It's in crisis where we have to be most concerned. I mean, look what happened after 9/11.
But the problem
after 9/11, we got the Patriot Act, right?
Yeah.
There's government surveillance on people.
Yeah, I know.
It was actually going on before that,
right?
The
problem is that we got so many damn laws to put people in jail for things that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where the system's become a joke.
Yeah.
And that's where the rule of law is hard to adhere to for a lot of people because the laws have become such a damn joke that you can't walk down the street, and if they want to arrest you for something, they're going to arrest you for something.
That's true.
I mean, it is that easy for them to do right now, and I'm not sure that's freedom.
No, it's not. But
what was Schuyler's guess for the was there some reason, he had some idea about legislating? Wasn't he come up with some kind of, I don't know, get rid of the legislature or something like that, wasn't it? Or?
No, he was saying, Schuyler was saying we need to add Keep the Supreme Court. I think there was a discussion around stacking the courts. And Schuyler's philosophy was keep the Supreme Court what it is, the 9, exactly. I mean, don't stack that fucking thing because it's the only last line we have.
Oh, create more legislators.
And then create more representatives. Not senators.
Not senators?
But House of Representatives.
Why would they do that?
In the federal system or state system?
It should be more senators.
Forget it. It's okay. I mean,
I think he was talking more representatives to represent.
He was talking about this because
of the community that they're from.
As a good federalist would say, it's not for the it's not for the judiciary to make law.
Yes.
And the idea that you're asking these Supreme Court of them to make law and find things that don't exist or make a decision because it's the right thing to do when it doesn't exist in the law is the wrong way to go about it. It's much better under the rule of law theory that you create legislators, and the legislatures, they're impotent. They're in a dreadlock. So how do you get out of the dreadlock?
Deadlock.
Deadlock. What am I thinking?
But dreadlock's
Dreadlock would apply too.
Dreadlock would apply. You get out of the dreadlock by
We're gonna
having
go
more
into the dreadlock.
by having more legislators, right? Because now if you've got two representatives coming out, and then you got 3. That's one that can swing the vote. You got that many more, you'll get a majority. That was I think his idea. You could actually pass
I liked
law.
his theory behind that.
Instead of relying on the courts to make law, you know what I mean, to make policy.
I don't think that adding more people to the shit sandwich is necessarily a good idea, but
Right. I don't know that it is either, but that's his answer for not looking to the courts. Because a lot of times, arguably the courts should be saying these are not issues that the court should be taking up. It's not for us to do this. Why do we have a legislature?
We shouldn't be legislating from the bench, is what they're
right.
saying.
So that's an argument, but
But
Yeah.
sometimes, in our state of legislature and the way it is, and our series of dumb laws that have been enacted over the course of the past 100 years, we probably need them to legislate from the bench a bit.
Or they would say that the proper way to deal with this is not for the United States Supreme Court to deal with it, but for the states, states' rights to figure out themselves, and if they violate some U.S. constitutional
just
principle.
imagine if they ended the war on drugs, how much time they could spend on fixing this.
Right. But they don't want to give it up, Jim, and I don't understand.
Where's Jamie? Is Jamie and Allie still on? Or they drop out?
Here they
Jamie.
come.
All right, Jamie, what do you know about this MORE Act thing? What do we know about it? Come on, tell us what you know.
What were you doing over there, Jamie?
You know what he was doing.
Jamie.
Where did Allie go?
He looks a little dreamy.
So this legislation, in part, would take cannabis off the controlled substances list and get some federal prisoners out of jail, and out of prison. And it's the most sensible federal cannabis legislation that has gone as far as it has. And if the Congress, if the House of Representatives passes it, it's not going to go any further. But that would be.
You don't think Mitch McConnell will take it up?
No, I don't think so.
I hope he gets voted out.
But that would be the furthest that something sensible has ever gone, and it might be symbolic, but similar to the UN vote, maybe symbolic, but it's significant and
I think
move
so.
forward.
I think it's significant. I wonder if they're doing it as a political strategy to try and win these House or Senate seats in Georgia.
What's interesting is that the moderate Democrats stopped it from being voted on before the elections because there wasn't a new stimulus package completed, so they thought that it would be better to wait.
But now they're pushing it, so I wonder if they're pushing it in hopes of winning these Senate seats in Georgia. Maybe.
Yeah, and there's the phenomena of people on the Trump side telling everybody there that it's all a scam, that it's not even worth voting. And if there's enough people that get that message and adhere to it, that would decide that right there.
Right.
This is going to be an interesting one.
I think so. If we can take McConnell out of House or Senate Majority Leader to where they're not the majority anymore, I think that's a good thing.
And at least something gets done, right?
Although you could say that McConnell was, I hate to say anything nice about it, but he was pivotal in getting
hemp passed. So I don't understand his dilemma. He's probably got issues with CBD as well.
All right, here we go. The MORE Act, introduced in the Senate in 7/23/2019, and its title is the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. Let's take it more.
Ooh.
The bill decriminalizes marijuana. Specifically, it removes marijuana from the list of scheduled substances under the Controlled Substances Act and eliminates criminal penalties for an individual who manufactures, distributes, or possesses marijuana. The bill also makes other
good.
changes, including the following. It replaces statutory references to marijuana and marijuana with cannabis. Both the J and the H are referenced there.
Yeah.
And requires the Bureau of Labor Statistics to regularly publish demographic data on cannabis business owners and employees. Establishes a trust fund to support various programs and services for individuals and businesses in communities impacted by the war on drugs. It imposes a 5% tax on cannabis products and requires revenues to be deposited into the trust fund. Makes small
bill.
business administration loans and services available to entities that are cannabis-related legitimate business or service providers. Prohibits the denial of federal public benefits to a person on the basis of certain cannabis-related conduct or convictions, maybe and even including firearms. Prohibits the denial of benefits and protections under immigration laws or the basis of cannabis-related events. And establishes a process to expunge convictions and conduct sentencing review hearings related to federal cannabis offenses. All right. What's Howard Woolridge say about this? Do we know?
I don't know. We should get him on, though, is what I was thinking.
I'm back.
Allie, how we doing? So we're talking about the MORE Act. What's your take on it?
Are we live or?
Yeah.
We're live.
We're doing it live.
I did not realize. I'm sorry. I was on a call for the last hour with my grandpa. It's his birthday, so.
All right.
Michael, did you say Allie or Alan? Can Alan talk?
Yes. Of course, Ellen can always talk.
Okay. But by removing cannabis from Schedule 1, it's going to eliminate the 280E problem. And that's going to be a big benefit to all the new businesses here in Michigan. It's going to be a big boost because they'll be able to deduct their expenses, whereas they wouldn't if the MORE Act doesn't pass.
He is right. That's huge, Alan.
Isn't it true, though, if it's no longer a scheduled substance and banks are making loans and commercial investors are involved and the federal government's approving it and the stock market develops that, the people that you are speaking of that may get a benefit won't even have a seat at the table anymore because the industry will be turned over to every other big investment firm and or company.
I think that's a total reality.
Yep.
Alan?
Yeah, I think that's a risk that big business is going to want to take over the cannabis market. We've already seen it happening, and I don't know what to do about it.
Nothing.
People with money getting more money.
Well, the MORE Act seems to suggest that it's got a lot of business flavor to it. It's got some social justice issues in it as well. Jamie, what's the word on the street? This thing's not passing, is it?
No.
What's that?
It is not passing. It's not passing. It may just get as far as the House of Representatives, and that would be the far as it could
I think it'll
reasonably
pass the
go.
House. It should pass the House, I would
You think so? I don't even know. I mean, it's the first time it's had a vote, right? And don't,
Yeah, it almost had a vote in last session, but it didn't get there, and it's been pending this whole time.
And think
So they're
about
finally gonna get it in.
think about this. There's probably the same, similar structured group of activists that have been lobbying this issue for years, right? And they've gone to all the parties and they've given all the money and they've written all the letters and done all the things. And it's the end of the year and they're like, okay, well we'll get it on the floor for a vote or something, right? That's probably what's happening, but it may not have a lot of.
I don't know. Nancy
Traction.
usually doesn't put stuff up unless she's got the votes.
Well.
So, I don't know. I think it may pass the House.
All right. So let's talk for a second about the UN action. Jamie, I want to hear you because you're in LA. And Alan, please try to be entertaining here if you can. In what are two seemingly conflicted situations, the United Nations Commission voted to remove marijuana for medical use from a list of the most risky narcotics such as heroin. So in other words, while the U.S. government legislature is trying to
struggling
determine
with it.
if whether or not marijuana should be Scheduled 1 or not. The United Nations has, in fact, voted to remove cannabis for medical purposes from the category of the world's most dangerous drug. Now, I don't know that they completely removed it from the schedule list as the MORE Act suggests, but it certainly is no longer Schedule 1 like heroin. In other words, they're recognizing that cannabis does, in fact, have medicinal uses. Okay, so with that being said, at the same time, the same United Nations and the Commission on Narcotic Drugs has overwhelmingly rejected a proposal to exempt CBD preparations with less than 0.2% THC from international control. In other words, they wanted to be able to allow the free flowing of CBD products from nation to nation under the guise that it was CBD products without it being in a control system that's associated with illegal or needing some kind of prescription. So that's equally doesn't make any sense with this other. And it would seem to me that if you were to try to draw some kind of cohesiveness or synchronicity from why they would do these two things here, it would seem as if they are beginning to recognize cannabis as a medicine, right? And in doing so, it means all parts of the plant medicine, including the CBD. And even though we're not going to make it as penal, maybe in the international scene,
don't make it penal.
It's certainly going to be something that is overseen by the pharmacy industry or the medical, right? It's going to be
because they do so good.
Well, I'm just saying that's what my take. Jamie, you got any thoughts on that? What is your take on all that?
Do you think it should be penal?
Well, it seems like the inability to discern what's what going across international borders may have been a consideration. I'm not sure. I really don't know what went into the thought process behind why they went one way with the medicinal stuff, although there was a recommendation by the World Health Organization for a few times over, and they finally took them up on it. I don't know what goes into the thought process of making decisions on which things.
That doesn't sound like somebody who's responsible for
I don't
everything
think
to me.
they know what goes on in their decision-making process, to be honest with you.
Word.
So, Jamie, is there any concerns now of any legislation pending that we have to worry about? If I understand things, the draft 7 has been tabled until after the.
I thought I saw. Draft 8, didn't I?
There's a draft 8 out, but we are still being told that it's not going to be considered in this session. It'll move into next session, and when it does move into next session, there is no sense of urgency to begin working on it.
Okay, good.
Well, it's going to be winter time, and people will be outside playing in the snow.
But I will feel much better after lame duck is over, and
yes,
for sure, nothing happened.
Did you hear? I mentioned, and I think Jeff Irwin he's been working very diligently. There's a chance some criminal justice reform legislation may pass through this lame duck session. I understand they're trying to address issues associated with license suspensions.
A little reform.
And also
that'll be good.
Probation terms, and also the issuing of warrants for people that don't show up. The automatic going into the lien and creating that situation where people get jailed and taken in. And trying to reform some of the other outrageous, as Steve said, and ridiculous types of laws that exist on the books. 59 misdemeanors in Michigan carry mandatory minimum sentences.
What?
At least 59 misdemeanor offenses carry mandatory minimum sentences.
How could that be?
So says the Michigan Task Force on Jail.
What are these misdemeanors that have mandatory minimums?
Probably domestic violence, drunk driving. That would be 2 I could think of. 2 of the 59.
Those misdemeanors have mandatory minimums, really?
I'm just guessing based on the.
Like a drunk driving second offense is a mandatory 3 days in jail.
Oh,
that's probably like one of the most common.
So there's one.
Oh wow.
I wonder. I bet you like a domestic violence second.
Sure.
Has a minimum, I bet.
Right, they may be 1-year misdemeanors. You know what I mean?
So most of these are repeat offenders. I'd wager then if they're going to jail.
Could be an ag assault.
Probably.
Yeah, that's not mandatory. Alan, what's your thought on that? What are the 59 misdemeanors? You got to, Allie.
Count them.
What the quote was 59 misdemeanor offenses that carry mandatory minimum sentences. Obviously, some of the first offense, second offenses stuff, you could have a misdemeanor that actually is a.
Well, is there like a minimum days that are included in this? Because we just talked about one today that was a 30-day misdemeanor.
Ooh.
That was an oddity. That's
30-day minimum.
That was a maximum.
Maximum.
That was painful.
Dealer of.
I know, but
like pretty much a dealer of a taser, but.
Dealer of a taser.
Taser dealer.
I bet you there's probably something in the misdemeanor marijuana laws that have a mandatory minimum. I bet you. I mean, if they're going to have it on any of the laws, there's going to be something in the marijuana that you don't know about.
maybe
Which
I
know
bet
is
some of the
pro-
driving while it's suspended charges. Like some of those and causing
Well,
accidents.
you got a
is like
DWLS second. That's
Second,
probably got a
right,
mandatory
right.
something.
And that could be because of not paying a what do you
I mean,
call it?
does it not list like what they all are?
No, it just
I'm just kind of curious because I feel like there's probably,
seems like a lot.
just like we didn't know about the dealer of a taser that's a 30-day misdemeanor.
Taser dealer.
Sure, there's a whole lot of things we, know.
Drunk driving, first offense is 5 days.
Mandatory minimum?
I
Yep.
figured drunk driving's was.
second offense.
I thought it was first offense.
Second offense. Here, so in the task force recommendation, they mention these things. They say that minimum sentencing requirements restrict judicial discretion.
They do.
Require jail sentence regardless of any mitigating factors or circumstance of the crime. This has been a common theme in even federal cases. Judges can't stand the fact that they have no choice but to.
If you're going to do that, just get rid of the judges.
Right.
You don't need them.
Exactly. What does it matter
Yep.
if everyone's got to be now? So that's one of the areas that's and then licensing sanctions. Of course, thousands of drivers loses their license suspended for reasons unrelated to safe driving, including failing to appear in court or pay a fine. The impact of these policies, or what is getting convicted of a marijuana crime. They didn't mention that, right?
Yeah, that's one
Driving with a suspended license is the third most common charge resulting in jail admission. Think about that for a second. Driving with a suspended license is the third most common charge resulting in jail admission.
I believe it.
How
That was a big one in Canton.
bored must they be? Seriously.
Well, that was the start of everything, Michael, and it was a guaranteed arrest.
Yeah.
So it's a traffic stop. We're out on the hunt, right? It's war on drugs time.
And it's easy, man.
We're out on the hunt.
Run their
we
plate,
find
right?
our
Suspended license guy.
Our defective equipment, our license plate light out, or whatever it is we're gonna do, or run the plate and see who we got in the car, and we're gonna stop it. And they're suspended in Canton. That meant they were going to jail.
Yeah.
Not all it's department to department of whether they arrest on it or not. And we had a arrest policy on arresting driving while suspended.
Quick, wait before you got
And-
before you got into the car and towed it, and he or she asked for that. They allow a friend to come pick it up and drive it, so it didn't have to go to the tow yard.
I would allow that.
There are policies that revolve around that.
I would do that. There might be departments out there that have a policy that says you have to tow the vehicle. If you make an arrest, you have to tow the vehicle. There is policy out there like that. We had discretion, fortunately, where if somebody had somebody to come pick up that car, you know what? Yes. Call them up right now, and they can come get it. And so then you don't have to pay the tow and deal with getting your car after this.
In storage.
So
And here's the thing. So there's an important legal. This isn't legal advice, but something to think about should you ever find yourself in this situation. We have a couple cases that are dealing with this right now, but scenarios develop where someone may be getting arrested at a traffic stop, and the usual result of that is that the vehicle will be towed to a lot, and in doing so, they will then conduct an inventory search.
Inventory the shit out of that car.
Which is, which is a method by which the police go through your car to make sure they identify all things so that they
want to make sure they give you everything back.
So you can't come back later and say the lot stole items for you.
They're definitely not looking for contraband.
Definitely not.
And
Not at all. that's not what they're trying to do.
That's just your final. You know what that is? That's your final search. If you didn't find anything on your search incident to an arrest, you know,
Or if you
at the
contact
beginning,
a press.
your plain view or whatever, your final go-to is if he's suspended, is you got that arrest and you're doing that inventory search, and by God, you're going to find something in that.
Right. So
Or Steve, if you're contacting the prosecutor to see what you can get into the car on, and they tell you, "Oh, arrest him for," you know.
I
no
never had to call the prosecutor
and then you get
for
in the car.
So
Hey, you arrest him on that. You arrest him for no ops on person. Get into that car.
Yeah.
You want to get into
Yeah,
it?
no. If you want to get in that car, no ops on person. That's an option.
Get in.
That's an arrest. It's a misdemeanor, Jim, and you can lock them up for that, and then you have a
No ops
search
on person.
incident to an arrest.
Boom.
Then
What
you
is
might
this
find
code?
some marijuana in the car.
The no ops on person for people that are listening at home and keeping score involves an allegation of a crime that you were pulled over, and as is required by law, to produce your valid driver's license.
Yes.
And you do not have a valid driver's license on your person
Misdemeanor.
while you are driving.
Yep.
This could result in an arrest.
No, it's not a valid driver's license to have a driver's license on you in general.
Yeah.
No, because if you have an invalid or expired driver's license, you have to have a valid driver's license on your person while you're driving or operating a motor vehicle. I know. I mean, we're fighting over like lawyer shit here.
Yeah, it's like semantics, but
Right.
I mean, we still have the whole argument of whether the court's going to rule on, a picture of your driver's
Right.
license is sufficient.
You'd think that in today's day and age, here's a picture of my driver's license on my phone.
Yeah.
Right? This is called a digital ID.
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't count. Well,
What's
it's
the
going to need some. You know what? It's going to need some legislating from the bench.
You know what
probably,
else?
In the forms of you fighting this in motions and appeals, Michael. That's what it's going to take.
in other words, you're federalizing this argument into counsel. I may agree with you, but I'm just not seeing it in the statute. This is a legislative solution, not one that I can help you
Yeah,
with.
not from the bench.
Federalist.
Yeah.
But listen,
I mean,
You know
that's
what else
it,
isn't going to
though.
cut it is a constitutional right to travel, Steve.
No,
Not gonna cut it.
because you can do that on your own 2 feet,
That's right.
and you don't need a vehicle to do it.
Yeah.
That's another thing. People got to remember that your driving license is a privilege.
yeah, that's exactly it. And when you take your
So-
driver's license and get it, you are impliedly consenting to a number of different laws that you may not even realize.
Yeah.
By getting behind a wheel and having a valid license, you're consenting to a number of different things. The main point I wanted to make, don't call it legal advice, but in a situation where you might find yourself, I hope it never happens, but where you're being taken into custody and you are with somebody else, you can ask that the other person be able to take the car into their custody instead of giving it to police. Or if there is a situation where you're being taken into custody and you're alone, make sure you at least ask for the opportunity to have the vehicle picked up or have someone else take it instead of the only choice that you may not, the only choice you be given, which is that no, we're gonna seize it and tow it and search it for inventory back at the lot. Now, I say that because each police department may deal with this differently. We just heard from Steve that if you asked, he's going to arrest you, that their policy would they arrest you for no ops on person, but if you wanted your vehicle,
Now, if I wanted to get in that car, I'm not going to be so generous.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and just
He's going to tow the car.
tow it in inventory.
but the point is that
But if
and this
they're
is a-
decent and I don't think there's anything else in the car,
But
no, here's the point.
sorry to cut you guys off, but in this specific case that we're talking about, in this policy and also case law, it says if it's for the purpose of furthering an investigation to get evidence for criminal stuff, it's not allowed.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
not why
but-
they're doing it. They're
but
doing. They're
that's-
just inventorying the car.
but
No, they're not.
it's,
The case that I'm
No,
thinking about,
and our-
it was
and-
definitely for that purpose.
and that's great in the courts, but the officers don't recognize that shit. And they're going to continue to do these kinds of things on the street without regard
Hold
to what actually should be, or without regard to the legal that says that you can't do it to further your investigative things. Okay, they're going to call it something else.
Yeah, an inventory.
An
That's what they've
inventory.
called it for years. And I just incidentally found this half a pound of marijuana
But
in your
like
vehicle.
for somebody,
I can't get in that car. I mean,
Listen,
you know what
Jim,
we ought to
you're
do?
missing a point here. Allie's making the argument that it's not, that it's we're just inventorying it.
Yeah.
On the videotape, the officer says, "I'm going to search your car because I'm going to seize it and I'm going to inventory it. Then I'm going to search your car and find what I'm looking for."
Well, he shouldn't have said that.
I know. What
That
I'm
was
saying,
that was dumb.
It was very dumb.
he doesn't specifically say it in those plain words,
Yeah.
but
And
how he says things, that's how it's very easily interpreted. I cannot give you the exact language, but he pretty much calls the prosecutor and says, like, I want to get into this car. How can I get into this car?
and
Right.
she said what? Inventory search?
Right. Here's another.
I don't know, he or she, but also at one point in this video, the officer mutes his microphone while talking to the prosecutor.
Uh-oh.
That's
Yeah.
never a good sign.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, so
I think we should have fun with the case.
so here's something.
Sounds like a good one.
The other thing that I wanted to say is that, as Steve said, if they asked to have someone come pick up the car, I would let them do it. However,
Yeah.
if I didn't like them,
And don't be a dick to the cop because
if I don't like them, I may not do that. Now, the point that I wanted to make is that this discretion that's being is not a thing. There's a policy that exists. If a policy doesn't exist, and they give full entire discretion to the officer to do whatever they want at the roadside, that's actually unconstitutional. Okay, and every department should have a policy on many of these on the roadside decisions to be made.
That's silly.
And all I'm suggesting, don't call it legal advice. If you find yourself in that situation and you don't want them to take your car, at least make their request. Give your lawyer a break so when they watch the video later or in the report it says he kept asking for blah, blah, that he let his wife come pick it up or her husband pick it up. That's if you make a record of it and they later find the 50 kilos of cocaine in your car, you might have a case. I'm just saying, it's not.
Maybe.
That's all I'm saying. Because they're.
Well, also just ask for an attorney and just keep your trap shut too.
That's always helpful too.
Yeah.
Right. You're not talking at that point, but
It's hard for
as
people
you're getting
to do.
arrested, say, I'm asking, my lawyers told me to request that the vehicle not be towed to the yard for inventory search, but to allow my wife to come pick it up. My lawyers advised me.
Yeah, because it depends on the policy, but like also other things that I read, like case law, it says depending on the, police department policy, because like the one case said like they may allow them to, but it's like may, shall, it's, argument of words. And
No, but I think if it's the may, they've got issues that the policy gives too much discretion.
Right. May leaves for discretion. Shall says you should do
I'm
it.
saying that a may policy is an unconstitutional policy. They cannot.
But if you
this
force.
is also like 1987 or 90.
It's U.S.
You don't-
Supreme Court case law. People versus Tui. Look it up.
You don't want to force
People
this.
versus Tui.
You don't want to force it. I'm going to tell you that
But
right
it's
now.
also like, no, it's 90s. Sorry, it's the 90s. And TUI is TOOHUY.
You forced this issue.
Michigan Supreme Court.
And
I had this case. A guy was pulled over leaving an 8 Mile adult entertainment location. He allegedly flashed a gun at the bouncer. You can imagine what this is like in the 90s, right? One of these places on 8 Mile. And they
a bookstore.
Radioed ahead. The police pulled him over. It was in Dearborn.
Yeah.
And they pulled him over, and he was intoxicated. They searched his trunk. They found a bunch of cash. I'd never seen this before. They found a bunch of untaxed cigarettes. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh,
at
yeah.
the time.
Haven't you ever seen Beverly Hills Cop?
There you go. Untaxed cigarettes, Steve. Right? You know what I'm saying? So it was untaxed cigarettes. And they charged him with drunk driving, all this stuff.
Was it a semi?
No, it was a sports car.
It's a guy
And-
named
and he
Axel
asked that
Foley.
the guy in the car with him be able to take the thing home. We had it all on video. They said, no, no, no. And I got Judge Runco, who was a, he had a picture of him and Reagan. Meeting Reagan at the airport or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he threw the case out. It was amazing. Yeah. And because of this issue, when I said to the cop during the evidence you're hearing, I go, when he asked you if he could let the passenger drive the vehicle home, why did you say no? He says, because it's my decision to make and my decision alone. I go, who gets to decide that? Me. I'm in charge. Like, really? Okay. Sure enough, there's Supreme Court case law that says, no. These decisions are not completely without
but
discretion. There's got to be a policy
You
before.
push it, and they'll just
Well, it's
they'll make a
also
policy.
Of course, okay.
And then you
Also in Tui, the issue was that the officer didn't believe that the passenger in the vehicle was able to even operate the vehicle, so that's why they didn't let him.
And-
but I mean, if your passenger is completely sober and able to, operate a vehicle, there's no reason why they can't take it.
But is that the line? Is the line that the person is there, or is the line, hey, I want to call my wife and have her come pick up the vehicle? She'll be here 10 minutes.
We don't have time for that.
Right,
sir.
and
We
then
have to do
45 minutes later, you're still sitting at the side of the road waiting for my wife.
You still got to get this guy in the blow and all
But
that
in
shit.
Tui, the thing was that the officer was mistaken on the policy where he thought it said they absolutely cannot, but it was like they may, so he didn't know he had the option. But like in this one case that we're specifically speaking on, this officer was the chief of police, so I feel like that's not a reasonable mistake.
The other thing was, I think if I recall from the Tui case, it said the policy could be offensive even, like something that's almost irrational. Like police can make terrible policy. Like every single time, no matter what, you must do this, and it's going to be, mean to somebody.
As long as it's consistent.
As long as there's a policy. They don't care, but you can't have discretion.
No, if you actually read it from start to finish, and it says like their policy says they may get somebody up there, and the police officer was mistaken. They said that's a reasonable mistake based on that, and it's like based on all this other stuff, blah blah blah. But the thing is like it's a may versus shall. And also the case that we're speaking on, I feel like it's not a reasonable mistake because in our case that we're speaking on, this is the police chief. Like, how can you not expect a chief of police of this police department to not know their policies, front to back, back to front, like the back of his hand?
Absolutely.
Steve said that the chief of police should. Steve said the chief of police should know all the policies. I can imagine a judge saying, "Counsel, I don't know if he's required to do that." Why do you think he's required to know all the?
Also, it says at the top of the thing that they were just like recently reinstated, or done like 2016 or something. So, they're pretty new. So I'm sorry. I feel like they should know, and they're also. I feel like they're not that. It's not that much to know.
Allie, the May shall thing was the rub in that case. He was mistaken, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and they said it was a reasonable mistake based on the May. In that case, it was a May. But in the case that I'm specifically speaking on, that we're speaking on, it's a shall.
I understand, but the May language was the problem because it allowed the officer to use his or her discretion.
Yes,
and they may have said at the end of the day it's a reasonable mistake, but that type of policy that is May is unconstitutional because it's not a policy at all. Like a policy is to say this is what we're going to do in these situations. It's not.
Yeah,
well, I don't agree with that.
It depends on the policy, and the thing is that worked in our favor is that the policy is different than their policy.
Right.
That this is a May and this is a shall. I mean,
right. Like this policy is okay, but he didn't follow it.
But
yes, exactly. There is no issue with their policy, but also like I even put in this whole thing, that I wrote up together on this whole thing is I think it's like the MSP policy or was it? Wait, I can actually find it.
M-Coles, I think is what it was.
But is that really what we?
Either an MCL or it was a MSP code. I can actually.
Don't worry about it. Listen.
I really want to know what I cited in this now.
Is that really what we want, though? Is a world that's full of policies that tell our police officers exactly what they can and cannot do? I mean, maybe it is, but
when they work in our favor,
right?
Yes.
But what about? I mean, we've talked a lot about community policing on this show.
True. I mean, there's
one
something to be said about that.
And one of the great things about community policing is discretion. It's the officer knowing the community and taking the appropriate level of action for the situation, and you cannot write that into policy.
But I don't know that this is.
It was a MCL code that I cited too in there.
The problem is
that
community.
backed our.
She's have earphones on.
Oh, what? Sorry, me. What?
No. Jim was saying.
Oh no. Also, what I said too was still like an MCL code. So.
We're talking.
It made our argument stronger.
We now Jim's bringing up the actual more philosophical discussion of whether or not we want to have given discretion to police officers or not. And Jim's suggesting that it's bad policy if officers cannot have discretion because when we talk about the lesser police state kind of policing and more of a community kind of policing where officers are walking around, you want them to have that kind of discretion.
And I agree with
But
Jim.
hold on.
I do agree with Jim, but right now I don't think so because the war on drugs has turned the police jaded.
I agree.
That they don't understand what community policing is anymore, Jim.
The training that goes on for policing does not train for discretion. You've got a whole school of thought that has been educated and trained in a way that they aren't thinking in terms of how to use the part of their brain.
And if they are using discretion, they're using it to use more force or to make more intrusion or to violate somebody's rights. That's what they've turned this to.
I think the question, Jim, is really, is this population of people you think that we're speaking of capable of making discretionary decisions?
Well, I think it's important that we don't look at them as a homogenous population because they're not.
But that's why it's problematic then.
Right. No, I totally agree with you.
Which is what I think, I think, Steve, it's back to what you said. The reason why they don't want to give discretion to the officers because there's so many laws. There's too many laws for them to know all about and have
But that's
discretion.
the whole reason to give them discretion.
Okay, so they're supposed to enforce
lot of
the
them
laws,
turn
but not know the laws.
I don't know. I understand that, Ellie. Ellie says they're supposed to enforce the law, but I know the law. I mean, I don't know that.
Is that what they're supposed to do?
I mean, how many medical marijuana cases
They don't know the law. I know.
that we had or you've had, I'm sure it's a lot more with you, but where they're in compliance, but the officer, and you question the officers on the stand, and they don't know or haven't recently reviewed or know the medical marijuana laws, and then those are the people that we as taxpayers, I guess, expect and pay to enforce these laws, but they don't even know the laws. How? I mean, I feel like you could just.
No,
find
you're right.
somebody
You're right. And
I don't know. I felt like I needed to know the law when I was a police officer.
Oh, God.
I mean, listen. I'm saying, I don't know why it is the way that is, but we've moved away from community policing and.
In the community policing, they don't really need to know the law. I mean, truly. You really think about community policing. What are they there to do? And you take a trip back and you say, okay, well, what are police at their core supposed to do? They're there to serve and protect. That is their entire mission. And you go to community policing and you give them that as their mission. And if they are true within their intent to fulfill that mission, the legal shit just falls into place. The problem is this war on drugs. It muddied everything up. It made criminals out of people that an officer would have tried to help. And I mean, that's what you think.
It created suspicion amongst individuals that there's no need to be suspicious.
Yeah.
I actually recently found out from a friend who there was apparently some things that just happened recently in Ohio with all their warrants are now just coming up for them to arrest people for months previous during COVID lockdown, whatnot. Anywho, so one of the cases that this person I knew, were charged with simple possession of marijuana, but they heard a case that was before their case. This person had OD'd on heroin, and somebody had called the police or 911 to revive them whenever they gave him Narcan. They had found some sort of evidence of drug use, not necessarily drugs, but then now they are charging them with a drug possession of heroin because it was in their system at the time that they were revived.
Oh. Huh.
Like, is that really the way that you want to help somebody with a drug issue? Is like charge them with a crime and?
No.
But like also you didn't.
That's the way
you
our
saw
society's been doing
drug
things
use,
a
but
long
not the
time.
specific drug.
Yeah, and look at where we're at. And you really look at the toll that drug abuse has taken on so many people in our country. And
No, I know it's really unfortunate.
oh boy.
Sorry. Little ornery
Layla. Oh, she wants attention.
didn't like past her bedtime and she's getting a little ornery. But what I was trying to say is so sorry. What she's trying to say and what I'm trying to say, it's kind of bullshit. It's something
Yeah,
with
that's right.
substance abuse issues. It's not right to charge them criminally. It's treatment, not criminal prosecution.
Yep.
If I could just add on what Allie's saying, she was pointing out that's Ohio. In Michigan, we have a Good Samaritan law took effect like 3-4 years ago, that when a person presents themselves for treatment and they have evidence of narcotics use with them, if the amount of narcotics they have with them is just for personal use, they shouldn't be prosecuted.
Well, until the police just say, okay, we'll let the courts decide that. We're going to charge you with it now until further notice. And that's what the police do.
Yeah.
Right. There was a case recently where some guy had like 512 Xanax tablets, and the court originally dismissed, and the prosecutor appealed, saying that was a little too much for personal use.
I don't think the prosecutor should be allowed to appeal.
Yeah.
Well, they did.
I don't think they should. I think we should make up a new law.
Yeah. New rule
that says prosecutors can't appeal, only defense can.
Well, when the judge dismisses their case before trial, they can appeal.
He's suggesting an amendment to the world that says they can't do that.
Yes.
I mean,
World Amendment.
if I were to rule the criminal justice system, there is a lot of things that would be completely different. But fortunately, it doesn't work that way.
You know what else?
As much as Michael doesn't want to see me as a Supreme Court justice or a circuit court judge, I would definitely be very pro criminal defense.
I think we need to go back to the 10 that Moses brought down from the mountain.
What's
If
that,
we could
Steve?
all adhere to those 10 laws, we would be a good place.
There's a debate I was watching on the History of the World with Mel Brooks. That he comes down, he's like, "I give you the 15. Whoops, I mean the 10." That's a funny bit.
Mel Brooks.
I missed something there.
Yeah, you got to get into the Mel Brooks movies.
Yeah.
The joke is that Steve's talking about going back to the 10 Commandments, love thy neighbor and stuff. And there's a scene in the movie that he's playing. Moses comes down after getting the rules for the world, and he's really got 15
Down from the hilltop.
15 commandments.
dropped
Not 10.
one.
There's 5 and 5. There's 2 tablets or something. He drops. I mean, there's 50.
I can only hear what Steve said, so I missed half of it,
Right.
so I didn't completely understand it. So
Just
thank
watch
you.
Mel Brooks' History of the World.
We're gonna wrap it up on that one.
Papyrus.
Yeah. Oh my God, Ellen.
What did he say? Papyrus?
Papyrus with the LL ship.
Oh. I think I'm gonna
There's
go.
also a History of the World.
It's good to be the king, right?
Yeah.
That's the other one. Oh, there's a really funny bit that he does. He shows up. He gets a stand-up gig in front of the king. He goes, you're playing Caesar Palace. He's like, the big stage or the little stage? This is a funny bit because, and then he shows up. He's telling jokes. And everyone's laughing. He starts making fat jokes, and it's Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
Don't do fat jokes. Kill him. It's like one of those really funny. All right, so next week we'll be reviewing with Steve Miller's Back to the CCE Corner.
Oh,
The History of the
yeah.
World. Maybe we'll even do Blazing Saddles as well.
I loved.
Oh,
A movie
Blazing
that could
Saddle,
not be
that was
made
one of
in
my
2020.
that's my mom.
No,
yeah.
it could not.
Could not be made in 2020.
No, not at all.
But it was a different time, and it was a time.
Back to the CCE corner. What does that stand for?
Oh God.
The
Go ahead and cannabis. The cannabis.
He's gonna do Blazing
Entertainment
Saddles.
Corner.
The CEC.
Yes,
CEC.
not to be
Not to be
confused.
confused with
Not to be
CCE.
confused with CCE.
Yes.
Yeah, I
The
was gonna
Cannabis
say, Dr.
Entertainment
Criminal Enterprise.
Cannabis Entertainment Corner.
CEC.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's much
did,
more about conducting a criminal.
I did some movie reviews on the
Yeah, that was fun.
Back during COVID.
Yeah, we're on another lockdown, aren't we?
Yeah, we could also add a show and tell element.
Ooh, show and tell.
I like
Yeah,
show and
Steve,
tell.
I have a lot of shows to add to your list as well tomorrow. Remind me.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're doing
A lot of really good
Blazing
shows
Saddles.
That I've been watching.
All right.
My mom
Sounds good.
bought me that movie. She said I used to,
But-
as a kid,
Oh, yeah.
watch
Who
that all
didn't?
the time.
Also, we're going to have a special report from Dan
Yeah.
Warner. Dan Warner will be reporting on why
Dirty Dan.
Jim was wrong. Why Jim was wrong that Monster is the best REM album, and instead it's somewhere
Monster-
between Murmur
No.
and Life's Rich Pageant
This is not true.
We're gonna get Dirty
and
Dan on film.
Fables of the Reconstruction. Dan is going to make that argument in song and voice.
Yeah.
No, I can't wait for that.
Maybe we can weave in one of those role plays before we go on Christmas
Duran
break.
Duran
Like a-
had the,
like a
you know, like a
exchange
test.
between the
Yep.
court- okay, well,
a
can,
court exchange where we have
Sure.
little role play where we get a judge and
Maybe.
somebody play
Maybe
Michael.
we could have a real judge on.
Alan likes to do that. Alan likes to read.
Yeah, Alan, you can do
Judge.
transcripts.
Can we get Justice McCormick back?
Yeah.
Ooh.
We'll
We
get
can Alan
Justice
can try to set that
McCormick.
up.
We'll
Alan can
get Pete Lucido can be the prosecutor.
Well, hold on. We've actually killed two birds with one stone here because, Allie, what we were talking about is in various times we've taken old transcripts and role played
Yeah,
them
we should get one.
live where everyone's
Those
just
are
So
fun.
much fun.
right. So
If we could plan those out, because I have
Yeah.
a couple that I've read and I've taken pictures of that are pretty funny.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
well, first of all, you can add to the selection of those cases that are funny. Number one and number two, as you've already
Oh,
stated.
I have one already in mind.
Put them in the pile.
I'm curious to know what that is, but also you can obviously, Allie, your whole purpose of this is so you can play judge.
yeah,
That's obvious.
Oh well, then we need to do the one. I mean,
No,
if
let's go with the judges. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, the Allegan. We'll go Allegan. You can play that role. Okay, let's do
I
that.
was just gonna guess. I was just gonna say elegant. If I'm gonna have to play any part, I have to play a significant part, and it's gonna have to be elegant. I mean, that's the only way I'm gonna participate.
And we will watch and judge you and see whether or not you really fit that character, and if those words come out of your mouth seem like they could really come out of your mouth to another lawyer. That's what we're gonna do.
And
Okay.
if, I mean, honestly, well, when we were in court and those were that was happening. I mean, honestly, personally, I don't think I would be that kind of judge. I would. Well, if she was very pro prosecution, I would obviously be I mean, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to use this against myself if and when I ever do run for judge. So, but no, I will definitely play the part. I think it'll be fun.
All right.
Be very animated because I know that judge, and I think it'll be very fun.
So the two roles you'll be trying out for will be that one judge we just spoke of, and then of course the aforementioned Judge Teresa Brennan.
Oh yeah.
In both of those
That
roles,
would be
Ellie.
a very good one.
Two parts that I'm going to play.
Potentially, you can dress
That'd
for the
be
role.
awesome.
You can
Is
dress
she
for
out
the
of
role.
the,
Awesome.
is she out of the clink yet?
One of the roles,
I
no,
don't know.
the appropriate costume, which you can get in the costume wardrobe department, is the black robe for, of course.
Yeah, the one with
Ellie.
the one with the
other one
stripes on it.
Will be the orange jumpsuit. Orange jumpsuit popular in Livingston County's campus.
Yes, campus is a good word for
But
it.
no, she's not in Livingston. She was transferred to somewhere else. It was not disclosed
All right,
where she.
right, because of the COVID thing. That's right.
Right, no, but she got out after 2 months. They let
Yeah.
she didn't do the full 6 months. She did only 2 months.
Yeah, well, they also didn't disclose where she went to for safety purposes for her, I guess.
Yeah.
I do remember reading that.
That's
But,
not something to worry about, Ellie. If you do your job, you won't have to worry about where, the disclosure of where the judge ends up doing their time in jail. That's not usually something people are worried about. Who
I'm
knows that?
also not her, so I mean,
I know.
I don't have to worry about that kind of thing because I have never.
Because you have
committed,
discretion.
Let's
and
just hope and pray.
moral
Let
character.
us join for a minute. I don't
us
usually do
pray.
this. Let us hope and let us pray that they get a vaccine for black robe disease, okay? Then we won't have to worry about it, all right? That's funny. That's funny. That's my funniest joke
that's
in about
funny.
3 weeks.
Ba-dum-bum.
So, Michael, even when I ever get elected as a judge, you're gonna constantly ask if I've been vaccinated for the black robe disease, then?
That's
And we're
great,
also-
exactly. I'm actually gonna. That's another one on my list of ballot initiatives we got to work on. One is, of course, the conviction integrity unit for every prosecutor office, and now we got to get a vaccine for the black robe disease. Alan, you'll help with that one too.
Well, we'll get what did Jen and I talk about today? It was the dad uniform disease, maybe.
All right, okay. We're not getting. Allegedly today, New Balance is a dad uniform.
New
Who knew
Balance?
that?
Oh.
Who knew that,
No,
right?
New Balance is a comfortable shoe.
That is not a thing. I said what?
It's dad uniform.
It is.
Where is Jen right now?
Whatever.
It's the truth.
Whatever.
I know that.
What are you
too.
kids wearing these days?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, are you wearing the Filas?
But there's nothing wrong with it. It just is a thing. It's just like something that goes along with the territory.
And it was
First of all,
New Balance and.
the New Balance shoe that they chose was like circa 1997. Okay, it was not like of an era now.
How about
New Balance is competing?
Of course, you know the.
Maybe it was a throwback.
New Balance because it's a dad shoe.
How about a Nike?
That really just hurt your argument.
You know what? I'm going to say this
kids
to you.
call 'em
It is not an insult to wear dad shoes. I'm just saying. I'm embracing
No.
it.
No.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but I'm owning it.
I've
I'm
heard-
owning it.
I've
I'm a New Balance shoe owner.
How about Reebok?
Reebok is another one, you know.
Is that another dad
But
one?
also, Michael, today you were not wearing dad shoes, or yesterday. I'm not going to call out what shoes you were wearing today or yesterday, but those are not dad shoes.
They're not easy to
I
walk
like
in
the
either.
red shoes you wear.
What?
I like the
Okay,
red
so
shoes that you wear. They're like I don't remember what brand they are, but they're red.
They're New Balance.
Tennis shoes.
Just kidding. No.
They
Oh, no,
probably
it's
are.
Adidas. I know.
Michael wore today and yesterday. Those are not dad shoes. Those are like hipster man shoes.
Oh. All right. Can we
I don't
get
know
a
if
shot
that's
of the
worse
shoes
or
on
not,
the closer?
It's much worse.
Sorry, Michael. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Hey, at least they're comfy, right?
Yeah, they are. But I got my.
What's wrong?
Forget
Let me
everyone
see.
else.
I can't even.
It doesn't matter about them. Worry about yourself.
I like wearing Earl Carruthers shoes.
Oh, yeah, they're Uggs.
Sandals?
Yeah, I like sandals, thongs. Sure.
In the
all
middle,
year
in the
round.
middle of winter.
Middle of winter?
Yeah.
He's crazy.
Yeah, we gotta
So
go.
am I.
Wrap it up.
All right.
Why?
Anyone that wants to keep it going, meet Alan in the special Zoom room. He'll
In
be
the
opening
Zoom
up a Zoom
room.
chat shortly.
room.
And
For after hours fun.
shoe attire, and I think Alan wanted to talk about thongs in particular. And we'll figure out what that means later on. I mean flip-flops. Flip-flops. All right, very good. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Comorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, Contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally, and internationally, and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Camoran Law. Michael Camoran is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Camoran Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Camoran Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Camoran Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Camoran Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Camoran Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.